Hi Jeff and Iching. I want to make this video just so you guys can see what I have been able to accomplish, and also to kind of show you some of the problems. So, in let me start with this: is in Django, everything is the configuration is based on this settings.py. Okay, so in the settings.py, there is a section for setting called databases. So here you specify what database would be using. Okay. Now the default is one because I'm not changing anything. The default is the one used to control the Django user access as well as the system stuff. I also created two databases. One is SROFE, which I call as a gold, meaning this is where everything copies off from. And then the third one is like baked by Melissa, which is pretending to be the shipper. And this is again, it's a pretending this is the our good, shipper ID, right? That's the data file which is located, okay? And in the file, this is where it is. It's located here, okay? It's at it's just a file. It's a SQL Lite 3 file. So that's the setting I have, right? But I also it's actually something Jeff mentioned way back then. I actually wrote this thing called router, which switches the databases. So this is actually it took me a while to figure out how to do it, and I had to googling and to look at other people. But in the end, I got it done. So basically, uh, the router it needs something this called middle multi DB the middleware. This is important. This is where it threading local, which creates a variable which can be accessed only at that current thread. So because if I don't do this, when I switch around the databases, it will this will gets overwritten because this is on the server side. So by applying this, the thread ID is associated with this global variable, and that's why no, if you have multiple user access it, this will still be the same. Only dedicate to that thread. So with this, basically what it does is actually it sets up the databases, uh, the to say, okay, at this particular moment in time, the thread, the default database what will be. Now, this is the tricky part, okay? Remember out here, the what's being set is actually this piece. It's the key, okay? It's this piece, okay? This dictionary is being stored locally in here, okay? So it's this request. There's a it's because it's defined on the runtime. There is a attribute database. That's where it holds this variable, okay, which is if it when it maps right, it will be in this piece, okay. So that's the anchor code for setup in the beginning of the in the beginning of it. The next thing is the router itself, okay. So I have a router. Keep in mind because we want to switch dynamically, so I am actually getting here. Basically, it's looking for the DB key, right? From this request configure, which is here. Okay, it's here, right? So I'm looking for this key. Say if the key is in this thread save global variable, right? I will looking for this key in the database here. Okay, so it will be either this, or this. Okay, so if it's in it, I will return it. Otherwise, I will not return. This is the utility function you will be used by router. Okay, so now this is what the Django standard multiple database. How do you do the automatic routing works? You say DB for read. What would you want to do? DB for write. What would you want to do? Allow them to reference the database across each other, as well as allow them to sync the data across the database zone boundaries. So these are the method you're supposed to override. So I am, these are relatively trivial. We don't use it. I only did it because this piece of code was copied from somewhere else, so I just left it. So uh, this for a read, right? So if I said if if it's not XORFE, which is this piece, I'm sorry, if it's not application, in other words, if I'm not in this application, right, then it will default to other uh, 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 the default database. Okay, so only this Astoria application, then I will check this. Okay, it will return the database at the moment in time. Remember here, right? That's the utility function I have. What it returns is it looks for the database key and then return that. If I have 10 of these here, each of them would have customers, and this would be able to change it based on the key value. Okay, then I'll show you how we get to this. So, uh, but anyway, this is how override. Now, this one is actually also it's for multi-threaded purposes. It's basically getting the database name from the section. Okay, from the section. So it's a utility function. Will not be, it's not that important at the for this exercise. So now I have this set it up, right? So how would this be used? Well, this is what actually happened. Okay, in the view, when I click the view, it comes down. Look for these are the models. Okay, the model does the automatic content switch uh, based on this, right? So if it's the model if you're doing the read of the object, then the read here will be stopping. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how it works. So I want to launch this first, and then okay. So let's just start from scratch. So again, I'm just gonna sorry, this because I need to start from scratch. So XOR feed, right? So now we're in the XOR feed landing page. So we click on this, right? That's where we're. If this gets clicked, Django's view list XOR charge will be called. Okay, so then it will go through these project objects, right? Which is defined in model here. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Let me do this. Okay, so it will stop here. Okay, let me do the list here. So it stops here, right? So it's not a post, it's just general listing. So it will skip through this, go to the next one. Now this is where the router will get called, because when this model gets called, the router will automatically gets called to figure out which database you're talking about. Okay, so before I go to the next one, I want to show this. I talked to Jeff about this because this is where it used to tell. So if you look at this here, right? This is where the value is. Okay, this is notice here is the baked by Melissa. Okay, this is the value gets passed in, so the router will be able to pick up because this has been stored in the request configuration global variable. It's a thread save because of this. Okay, so it's only for this, and that's where it will happen. Okay, so if I click this, it will access the router. Right now we're in the routers.py. It does the read, right? So it says if its label is XOR, which definitely is, because this is I'll show you, right? This is the model. Okay, so if you want to get to the deeper, so the meta field, right? The meta app label, that's the XOR. Okay, so it is an XOR. Now I'm going to return this. Okay, now this is the utility function we have, right? So it's the multi-DB selection. This is the key actually. So we come over here. So now we're in this. Now the first thing we need to do is to, because I have a thread save global called request to configure, right? So it looks for this. It says, does the request config has the DB attribute, right? So yes, it is because I set it up here already, right? In the beginning of it. In the beginning of it, it gets set. Okay. So now I have it, right? So it will say yes, right? So then it asks, is this DB value is what? It's baked by Melissa. See, it's the baked by Melissa, okay? Right, this is baked by Melissa. So is in the setting database? It is because, look at this. The setting database has three entry, right? It's external fee, pay manager, and default. So it does have a key called baked by Melissa, which is here, right? It's the same thing. Because again, this settings.db is settings.databases. Okay, so that's what this is. So it is in it. Now this will return the name key, which is baked by Melissa. Okay, so this gets returned. Okay, so this is going to continue on until all the records being released. Okay, see, it's gonna now if you look to here, this is the return. So this piece is actually in here in this database. This this long custom ID.sql3. Okay, so that's how it gets read into it. Now, if you look at the code, right? So this is where here you see this. I have the key in here. Okay, once it's set, the model internal implementation, Django model internal implementation basically grabs off the name field, which has the file location of this. Okay, so that's why I was telling Jeff about this is a little bit harder because I'm getting yes, this is the key, but it's not directed to the file name. It's the file name actually is in here. So if you look at the URL here, guys, this is what I was talking about. This is the how this file, the database name gets passed is actually I add a URL here. So in the before I before that, and I'm pretty sure in Ichi's code as well. If usually you do this, you just list this, okay, without the database ID, and I that's why this has to be this way because otherwise I wouldn't be able to pass the information in, and also I wouldn't be able to identify the you know associate a request URL to the thread safe global variable. Okay, so that's very important because otherwise it will be messed up. So now this is where the so it all seems to be working, but what's the problem? Well, the problem is uh, this entry has to be pre-created, otherwise it wouldn't work, right? I can show you a way to actually dynamically switch it out of this. This is the populating script I have. I use this, right? So you can see here actually the key pieces in here. Okay, so this is the FedEx Exoro charge, right? Well, I have in uh, if you look at this, the FedEx Exoro charges here, right? So this is the same thing. So if I want to add to it, I would do a get or create method in this object. It's the Django ORM. Before you call this, the way you want it to set is actually do this piece. You get the name. Now this name itself, right? I can change this programmatically. Okay, then you want to set the name to your database name, which is the physical file database name, and then so in our case, right, you would be assuming the baked by Melissa. We would be getting the name, right? It will be baked by Melissa, right? And then the name is the file database name here. Okay, so this is basically baked by Melissa name. It would be equal to database and baked by Melissa name, but that's what the name it would be. But if we want to dynamically switch it out, this will be as only ones in here. Okay, then I can swap out the file name, this df name, in here. Okay, so in this case, assuming that if we do this in the view, right, I have the db name. Okay, the name here. So when I call this function, I could have put this line here. Okay, I could put this line here to set this in the view, and that way when this gets created, it will directly hit the baked by Melissa database. Now, this sounds really good. What's the problem? Well, here's the problem. At If you look at the code, assuming I'm copy the code here, okay? So in here, right? So if since I said I wanted to get, this is where at the moment I want to switch, assuming to the list. Let's just do the list, okay? So in here, so the initial list is not, right? So I will do a initial list is not a post request. So this line code will definitely gets called. Okay, just let me do this. So this will be the first line because it's not equal to post. This will be the first line to call. So in this case, we want to switch the database, right? So we would do this line here, okay? All right, assuming the database is DB, okay, we would do the DB, right? The DB, and again, this would be the database file before you call this. So this the Django model implementation of this will read the database based on the settings file names, okay, and then this will return the list. That sounds great, except the one thing. At the moment I set the value to baked Melissa, keep in mind this is a server code. This is a global variable, and this also will be accessed or can be accessed by another client on the browser side. If at that moment, if just at the whole at that moment in time when that request is accessing the setting database with the name, what will happen? Well, it will happen. What will happen is it actually will be reading the DB with the baked by Melissa database. But they were not selecting the baked by Melissa. They might select, Green Chef. So now they screwed. They will be looking at the baked by Melissa table. That's the issue I was rather concerned, and that's why I was telling Jeff last night. Well, I have not come up with a better way to do this. So let's just, for the sake of it, we'll just do this as a, I want to show the, just to further illustrate the problem, I guess. Let me get this, okay. So in the view, right? So that's the problem. But I want to further just do another, point. So I said in before the moment I do the accessorial charge table, or I can change the database name, right? So in this case, I'll change to baked by Melissa. Okay. So let me show you what I mean by that. So I'll do the first one, and then I'll show you, and then I'll really do a file. Okay. So at least you can see it. So I follow the thing I said. We will change the file name here. Okay. Now we got the routing all works perfectly. Okay. So that's not an issue. So if we do we want to swap the file, right? Use this way. So let me run this. Okay. I'm here, and I'll do a click. It's posting the view listing, right? It says posting. It's not. So now I am swapping this. Okay, now if you take a look at this now, this will have a database called Baked by Melissa. That's the physical file name. Again, this is very important. It's the physical file name. Okay, so it will be like this. So it's gonna look for a file called Baked by Melissa, which we don't have. Now I know this is gonna fail. Okay, so we'll just look at this. It's gonna fail because we don't have that physical file. So right, so you will see is in here. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, sorry. Let me get rid of this because the key is here. I need to get rid of this. This is one example of it. Actually, it's getting the database from here. So we'll get rid of this. Okay, so let's just restart this. So now, let me go back to this again, right? So I'll do refresh. I click on this. Okay, so we'll do a post. It's not. So now it gets rewrite to the databases. So this is the XRO fee. Okay, so now this is gonna look for the XRO fee and it's gonna fail. Okay, see, it couldn't find it. Remember, I deleted that. I'm actually in the code. I'm not looking for. I deliberately create this, right? I'm not looking for the big drum unless I'm looking for this. Okay, the name I get. I when I switched. Let me go back. Okay, just right. So when I switched, so it comes back again. Okay, when I switched here, right? I reset it to DB. The file name on this one is. If you look at this, right? The file name is baked by Melissa. Okay, so I don't have one. So now what I need to do is actually basically to go back to set this. Okay, so this is what I'll be doing. Uh, so I let me go back to the directory here. I'm gonna copy this to create a. This is this basically I'm trying to do is to show you how I can dynamically changing the physical file name based on the content you're requesting, which is really what we want. However, the problem is the problem is I cannot prevent is the multiple loading problem, right? Because you this is on the server side, you know. So let me do this. Okay, so right, so we have a baked by Melissa. So this database file physically is called baked by Melissa.sql3. Okay, and this will work because uh, here in my code, I actually changed the file name from the file name is changed from df.sqlite to the baked by Melissa.sqlite. Okay, so let me restart this. You can see it. I'm trying to rerun the program. So now it's post, right? So now I have set this. I'm sorry, I actually had to. Let me get this. Okay, so there's one piece I am because there is a extension, so I need to add this extension to it. Okay. All right. So if I get this set, now the database name, the physical database, the again I keep saying this, the way I did it in the router, the database change is happen at the dictionary level. The dictionary actually specify what driver is, and there's actually more than just the name, right? You have an engine, it has a name, but at this approach, I actually just changing the file name. Okay, so that's why I want to show you. So if you look at this, this gets changed. The baked on Melissa SQL. Okay, so right, and then if you look at the file directory, I do have a one. Okay, so if I execute this, this will work. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see this. Sorry, let me get this. Okay, let me see this. Hold on. So, so let me see. I want to make sure this is I'm hitting the right ones. So this is picked by Melissa. Oh, it's looking for that key. Man, this is where is that key? Oh, I know what to do. Sorry, folks. Uh, this is what it should be. Yeah, because the URL changes. Okay, so hold on. So I know what to do. Just a second. Okay, give me a second. Okay, so this is what I need to do. Again, remember I said it's actually based on the database. It's really not the name. The database record key, actually, that's the better way to describe record key. I can change the database engine on the fly. So what I need to do is actually in the URL itself, I need to make a change. So it's instead of baked by Melissa, it will be accessorial fees. Okay, so that will work. So now this is what the URL, you'll see it. It's actually the URL is accessorial feed. What is it? What is it? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Just a second. Let me. Okay. The whole point I'm trying to prove is how do I dynamically, instead of switch to the database key, so I can switch to database, I would switch the file in the per record database record, and that's really what I wanted. Okay, the problem, as I was discussed with Jeff last night, was I cannot prevent that this multi-thread changes in this piece. So let me show this because I want to hold on a second. Let me get this. Okay, so reload and click on this. So now I'm here, right? Yes, here is now it's the XRO fee. I changed it. See this, right? Because this is actually, just in case where it come from, is this link. You know, when I on this link points to XRO feed. Now I can change this on the fly, okay? Depending on which customers. But anyway, so now I am in here, right? I'll show you. This is I'm here, right? So I'm gonna access the, I will set the pass, right? So I want to set back pass, right? To baked up on my lesson. Man, it's XRO feed. No, I'm sorry. So So SRF SQL, which is not what I wanted now. Hold on a second. This is what it be actually baked up by Melissa, because that's what pretending, right? We're switching on the fly. So make sure I'm getting the right ones. So this would be okay. I'm switching the database here. Okay. So when I do this, if you rerun this, you will see it. Okay. So this is the same. So in other words, the baked masa gets picked up from the from this. I'm resetting the file name. The problem with this is, as I said, I cannot stop this being not written by other people because this is on the server side. At the moment I'm sitting, this is a global variable. It's not a thread safe global variable. So if I set this, I cannot prevent other people at that moment in time access this to do a record write read. As if they do that, they will be set to Victor Melissa, not you know not the ones they choose to, not the customer they choose to work with, right? So anyway, that's what the problem. I just want to show you guys. Okay.